we are going to summarize common repayment obligations. Now we are talking here about student loans. So how do we repay student loans and what does that all look like? So let's just get some terminology out of the way here. So remember, a student loan is just a repayment of the loan plus the interest. So when we're talking about student loan repayment, it's the loan amount, whatever you borrowed plus interest. And these are done by monthly payments over a certain period of time. Okay. So for federal student loan repayment options, we've got 4 types. So, and these are the 4 we're going to talk about: the standard repayment plans, the graduated repayment plan, the extended repayment plan, and the income-driven repayment plan. Now, these all have, I would say, pros and cons. It really just kind of depends on your situation, how much you owe, all of those types of things. So let's look at these. The standard repayment plan, the lender, so whoever's lending the money, determines the monthly payment at the time of the loan origination. These loans are 10 years. So they say, okay, you're going to borrow $8,000 for 10 years, and therefore your payment is this. So it is decided on the day that you get the loan and you go from there. So it's kind of like standard. I would say this is the less stressful of all of them. It's the most easy to understand because it's basically you have the 10-year loan, this is how much your payment is, and it's done. It's very nice. The graduated repayment plan, it's kind of weird where your monthly payments start low. Let's just, for easy figuring, say $100 a month. And then say the next year they go up to 125, and then the next year they go to 150 or whatever, but they gradually increase over the loan term. So by year 10, you might be paying $600 a month or whatever. Now, this could be really great for students who, you graduate, you're starting, as a beginner in your field, so you have a low income, but maybe in 5 or 8 years, you're going to be earning a whole lot more money at your job, so you could afford a higher payment. So the hope is, like when you have these, the hope is that as your payments increase, so does your income. The only problem is, what if your income doesn't increase, but the payments do? You could be in some trouble. So that's the difference between this and the standard plan, where you know how much your payment is every month for the entire time. Here, it changes. The extended repayment plans, this is where you must have more than $30,000 in outstanding student loans. So they're saying, okay, you have more than $30,000 in student loans already, so therefore it might take you longer to pay this back because you're paying back a lot of loans. So this is where our loan term changes from 10 up to 25 years. Now notice it says up to 25, which means it could be less, but it could be up to 25 years. Now, payments could be fixed or graduated. So remember, fixed was like the standard plan where you have the same payment the whole time. Graduated is where it starts low and increases. So again, this kind of depends on the actual repayment plan. And then this works and thinks similar to a car loan or a mortgage, where the longer the term, the lower your payment. However, the longer the term, the more interest you're going to pay, because it's accruing over time. So if you can afford a shorter term and a little bit higher payment, you will save money and interest over the long run. Now, this is generally for students who just can't afford that higher payment and you need the longer term. So it's great for that it lessens your payment and allows you to actually be able to afford the payment, but it significantly increases the total amount to be repaid, right? Because you're just paying more interest. So at any point in time, if you have a longer term loan and you have that low interest or the low payment because you need it, if you ever have an influx of money where you can make an extra payment or two, do it, because that will help the interest go down. Just kind of like paying on a credit card. If you can pay it off early, it'll help and save you in interest. Now, the last one is the income-driven repayment plan, and this is based on a percentage of your income. So every year they readjust based on your current income. So if you get a raise, your payment goes up. If you take a pay cut, your payment goes down. So it's readjusted each year. The loan term can be anywhere from 10 to 25 years, depending on the amount of loan. And the payments are somewhere generally between 10 and 20% of your income. From what I found, the average is, that's the average percent of income that it's going towards these repayment plans. But after 20 or 25 years of payment, the remaining loan balance is forgiven, which is interesting. And not a but an and. The forgiven amount is taxable. So maybe that is a but. I don't know. It's an and a but, because that, so if they forgive $8,000, you're being taxed on that. So it's basically like they're giving you money because they're taking away what you have to pay. So then you would pay more in taxes. Just think about that. And because these are generally longer term repayment plans, you're going to pay more interest. So really, if you can handle the standard plan, the very first one we talked about, it's the 10-year, it's like the most straightforward. If you can afford that, that's the easiest one to go with. Everything else has some trickery involved that could potentially become a problem, or you're just going to pay a lot more in interest because of the longer term. Now, if you take out a new loan, every year, every semester to pay for that semester, which is common for a lot of people, when you graduate, you might have like 6 different loans that you're paying on, and it can be quite confusing. So this is where we have the federal loan consolidation piece, where, okay, I have more than one federal loan because of each semester or each year, and we can consolidate those into one loan so that you only have to pay one bill instead of 6. How they do this, they take the weighted average of all of the interest rates to determine what is the rate of your consolidated loan, which I think is fair. It's not great, but it's a fair way of doing it, of saying, okay, if these are all of your different interest rates, let's take the weighted average based on how much you owe for each one and throw it in there. Now, these loans can be extended to 30 years. That's like how much the length of a house loan, right? Which is crazy. The only good reason to do this would be that you literally cannot afford the loan payment as it is. Then yes, obviously you need 30 years so that you can make the payment. But remember, the longer the loan, the more interest you are paying. So if you're doing this consolidation, which I would say do that because it makes it one payment instead of multiple, really kind of focus and work on your budget and figure out how much can I afford so that I'm making the least amount of years, because I will pay the least amount of interest that way. Just a financial piece of going through that. So that's a lot of student loan discussions. Sorry.